I think the computer's lagging. It looks like the audio is working fine. So let's go right into this. Those files that Kyle's been selling on the, let's get it real close so you know what I'm talking about. Just go to Cutting It Close. He's got a few different videos and things that he's selling with the BAMX wood projects. So, my gosh. I'm having a hard time seeing his actual video here. I mean his website. So I want to show you real fast. If I've never really prepared him. See if I can find his website. This is his academy. He's selling some tips for you if you want to go check out. He's got a lot of helpful stuff for some of you that are fairly new to this. Probably any of us could learn from. I'm joined up with so many different things like this that I follow that it's crazy. But anyway, golly, it's amazing. I can't just find his website. Let's just put Cutting It Close and see what comes up here. Sorry I wasn't prepared for this part. I'm just trying to make sure you're following what I'm talking about. And that ain't working, so in that case I'll go to my email real fast, and I'm sure I've got an email from him in here. Here's one. And these are where I bought the files from him, but cuttingitcloseworkshop.com, that's what it is. So CICworkshop.com is going to be his website. And then you can go in and order the wood or several different things from him, or some tools, different things. These have the flat tip, I'll warn you of that. I'll try to go over that for a minute. These gold digger end mills is some of them that you may have followed me that I've broken some. And he just sent me a new one to try that's apparently an upgrade, different geometry on it, maybe. I'm going to try to run that today. Just got it in the mail today. But anyway, if you go to materials and sheet goods, you can see the BAMX in a couple different colors. I haven't tried the tiger stripe, but this is the bourbon color that's the most common, I guess. And you can buy other things from him, and you can go over here to digital files, and you can get a few different files on here. He also has some on Etsy, I believe, but the ones we're dealing with right now are these Christmas files. I own both of these I bought from him. There are some things to look out for. I'll go into here in a minute. So now let's get out of this, and let me open up VCarve, and I've got two different versions here. On this one, I'm using the 3/4 radius. Now, you want to be careful here that some of these you may need to redraw some of these vectors. If you're using the 3/4 diameter tool, it will not quite fit in here. I've redrawn some of this so that it will. But just be cautious that you'll have to do some extra sanding in any of these tight areas, especially. That's not a true 3/4 radius there. I don't know what it is. If you have any doubts, just go over here and pick up, draw a circle. Like there's a 3/4. I didn't put a decimal there, 0.75. And create you a 3/4 diameter there that you can drag around here. And you can see that will never fit all the way up in there. So you're going to have to do a little bit of sanding in there unless you come in and work on those vectors or use a smaller tool. I think the 7/16 does a nicer job personally. And so anywhere that's tight like that, or even here, you can see I already drew that one to where that one fits in there. I may not have did a perfect job of drawing this, but you can't really tell anything about that once it cuts. So just pay attention to that, run a different tool. Now the files he sends for you are, I don't run other people's toolpaths. I just don't. So these are some that I come up with, and I'll go through kind of how I'm doing this. So this is a 470 depth. And I've got this pulled up as the beast. It doesn't matter what end mill. Don't be so critical about. I see lots of times where people want to know what tool. Let's go up here and look. Tool databases and things to use, and don't worry so much about it. I have a lot of them in here because sometimes they just have a few more options on some form tools or different things. But as far as end mills go, it doesn't make any difference. Just in this case, for instance, I'm putting this in as the beast, which is a very similar tool to this. And the most important thing is you got a 1/4 inch diameter here. It's a 3 flute end mill, which is going to help it calculate this chip load here. Pass depth, you set that to whatever you want to go. That's pretty deep, going 260, but I'll show you what I do to overcome that. And step over of 60% or thereabouts is fine. You go higher than that, 60, 70%. This wood's a little stringy, and I'm going to go do something I haven't tried yet. I'm going to go across the grain on this roughing pass on this one to see how that works, because this bamboo can be really stringy when it's pocketing that with the grain. And this is running really conservative, 100 inches a minute. I broke 2 end mills. I'm just a little gun shy right now. I've ran this as high as 200 before, but I've broken end mills going at 235 depth. But I'm doing 3 passes, so no matter what you put your tool in here, just go in here to edit passes and see if you like these numbers. I'm going 156 depth 3 times here on this, and that should be fine. You can also set your first depth if you want, but we're doing 3 passes at 157, and I'm happy with that. And it's going to take a little longer. I mean, we were doing 2 passes at 235, and I have broken an end mill twice doing that, and I just don't really want to do that again. I don't normally run that hard. So on a different wood, I might do that. I probably would, but this bamboo seems to be really tough. I don't know if it's the glue that's in it or what makes it do that, but I have broken 3 end mills. Actually broke a beast in there doing a outside cut too at the same depth of about 235 or something like that. And when it ramped down into that over about 1 inch or 1.5 inches, when it got down there, it just snapped it off, and I didn't do anything wrong. It's just, I believe this wood's really tough, and you want to be careful. Machine's really nice, but it will break an end mill. So be very careful doing that. And so, anyway, this is, I thought I had already ran these toolpaths. Preview all of them. So we're just going to rough this out, and the whole point of this was to show you. I don't need to do this again. I've already done this. Okay. This roundover bit that I'm using, if you'll notice, it looks like it's stepping down. The reason for that is I'm using the 1/8 inch. This is a pretty narrow little area here on his hat. And if you run that 1/4 inch on this, it seems to really make this thin. So I'm trying a 1/8. Now the 1/8 I bought, I ordered some more from IDC Woodcraft. These that you buy most places, I know you can't see this very well. I imagine this has a little flat on the bottom, and you don't really want that. The same way with the one Kyle, not Kyle, I got too many. Ryan is selling one, and it has a little flat. This is not it. This is one from IDC Woodcraft. This is a 1/4. Any of those that have that little flat, I measured this to be about 20 to 30 thousandths wide on that flat spot, and that's why I wouldn't. Ryan had this with a different vector in here. I don't normally like to add extra vectors. It just complicates the project a little bit. And so in this case, let me show you. I just went in here and let's reset this preview. And the first thing I did, I've just said, I'm roughing this. Now, the way that wood sets out, if you run the top grain with that veneer that's on top, say in the Y direction away from you, that bottom, the center grain of the bamboo core in there will be going opposite of that. So I'm roughing this direction, and I'm going 470 depth, and then we'll just preview this real fast, but you can see, let me slow it down just a minute. See, I'm going across that bamboo grain on this one. I hadn't tried this before. It may not work that way. I'm just, those strings that comes up the other direction, I've been having to dig them out. They've been stopping up my vacuum hose quite a bit, and I was just going to try to see if this will chew that up a little different. And it could just be the step over that I was using, I don't know. So anyway, that's all that's going to do is rough all this out. And I'm leaving an offset in there of 260. Set that in here on a pocket toolpath. You can go ahead and select all of these, and it will automatically, and always look at your toolpath when you do this. Let me close this. When you select your toolpath, make sure it's doing what you really want it to do. That's a hole in there you're pocketing out. These are going around these facial features, and you want to leave that step right there that you're going to come back and clean out with that radius tool, that bowl bit, bowl and tray bit they call them. So I'm looking at this, and it looks like I'm leaving that amount away from that line of 260 thousandths, because we're using the 3/4 with the 1/4 radius tool right here. And I'll show you that tool. That's not in this. This is what we're going to use later. So after this tool path, we're going to leave a step. So you want to profile this path to leave that step we just allowed for. You're going to take this down to, I'm taking this down 220 thousandths from the top, which is going to leave me a little over 1/4 inch from the bottom, that 470. So 470 minus 220 is around 1/4 inch, but we've still got 30 thousandths in the bottom we got to take out. So we got plenty of room. But as you can see, that's going to come inside, leave the step everywhere. I'm just looking at toolpaths to be sure I didn't mess up. And it is doing exactly what I want. And that's with the same tool, so we'll run this as the same program when we set this up. I'm doing an 1.5 inch ramp on these. I broke end mills, like I keep saying. I've never broken end mill before, and I don't like that. It's just, this wood is tough. I'm just warning you, it is tough. So when you save that, you'll select both of these and set this as visible toolpaths to one file, because that's the same tool. You can run that and then save those, which I've already done. So we'll go back to 3D. We'll go ahead and look at this. We're going to preview that visible toolpath. It's just leaving that step everywhere we want it. As you can see, there's fly buzzing around here. Everything's looking exactly like we want it. You want to always verify this stuff. Next thing, we're going to do this clearing step. I'm going to do a profile pass at 480 depth. I'm still leaving 20 in the bottom for the final, but at this point, we're going to take that same tool that I'm talking about using, and that is the 3/4 diameter, 1/4 inch radius, 5/8 flute length on 1/4 inch shank, and the RIP. If you go in here to RIP, you can download the RIP tool library. It's forgot the name of their company, but it's Precision. I've got all of these. If any of you ever want any of these tool databases, I've saved 3 or 4 or 5 different ones here if you want any of them. I just usually add them in here in case there's a weird tool that I need. And RIP has a lot more stuff, and Amana does too, than a lot of other people. And I'm telling you, it don't make a difference which brand of tool you're using, because you need to go in here and pick out what you want them to be. But if you can see, I'm picking a 7/16 there. That's not it. That's the other tool I use. But right now it's 3/4. That CD means the cut diameter, 3/4. Radius is 1/4 inch right here on this part. Flute length, it means it'll cut 5/8 deep and a 1/4 inch shank. And if you push copy, it'll fill all this in for you. Now this is where you need to go through here and pick out what you want to run it at. And don't worry about what anyone else set this at. You know, here's your chip load. That's going to be based on this 2 flute and your RPM right here. I'm running 18,000 and about 150 inches a minute on that the final deal, but I'm not doing that on this profile. I'm only running at about 65 or 75. I'm going to close this because I don't want to do any changing here, but if I push edit here, you can probably see what I set that at. Yeah, I got 75 inches a minute on this tool path, 30 on the plunge. I'm trying to go real slow and easy. I'm letting it go down 113. And again, you can always change that. And I'm also allowing 20 thousandths from these vectors. Now, anytime you put an allowance offset, whether it's an inside or outside cut, all that means is you're staying that distance away from the line. If that's a positive number of 20 thousandths there, that means you're staying 20 thousandths away from the line in the direction that you are, which you're on an inside cut on a, what are we on? We're on an inside here. So in here, we're going 20 thousandths away. If you put this on the 2D view, you can see this is staying 20 thousandths away from the line. Now that's based on your diameter, your 3/4 diameter. So half of 3/4 is 3/8. So this line is 3/8 from there, plus this 20 thousandths that you're staying away from that line. And it's automatically calculating if you're inside a line here too. If you'll notice, we're inside that line. And the way I like to verify that is go over here and measure this. So let's just measure the distance we're staying off of that line here. If you measure that is about 396. So if we take that, remember we want to be 3/8, 375, just to be figuring the tool diameter or the tool radius. So 396 minus 375 is 21 thousandths. And we're trying to stay, what did I say? Forgot what I had, 20 thousandths. So yeah, I'm just roughly measuring it. So we're staying 20 thousandths away from that line. And that's including where your tool is, depending on diameter. So remember, this little cut, it ain't gonna get up in there real clean. So just plan on sanding out a sharp area like that, or use a smaller tool so that can follow that line a little better. So that's just how that works. So let's get out of here, and I just wanted to show you some of that. So now then, if we go back in here, we're going to clear that step, and here's the preview that visible tool path. So you see it's just going in and clearing that step out everywhere. Still leaving a little here. You can see that it's still leaving about 20 thousandths on the wall and 20 thousandths in the bottom, I believe. Because in fact, you can hover over this and see I'm at 470 here. I'm at 480 here, so that's why you can see I'm 10 thousandths deeper here, but I still got 20 to go to get to our next tool is going to be going with, we're going to do a raster cut with the grain this time with that same tool. So we'll be saving those two in the same program. So we're going to preview this path, and if you'll notice, it's just going along there and it's cleaning that up. I'll slow this down so you can see. After it gets through with that raster, then it will do a profile around that. And it's going to have trouble getting up in that spot, but because I changed that vector there on that hat, it does get in there just barely. But if you'll notice when we finish this here, that it will not get all of that. And you can see that it's not quite cleaning all that up. You will have to sand a little bit of that out if you use that 3/4 diameter tool. And so that's just how it is. Now we do the round over. Now this is the part I was telling you. On this round over, I'm using that 1/8. It does have a little flat of about 20 or 30 thousandths on the bottom. You just want to keep that off of that line a little ways. And so there's a couple ways to do that. And I know Ryan had drawn extra vectors in there. I don't like extra vectors on my stuff. It just kind of complicates and makes it harder to pick things out. And I mean, you can put them on layers and things like that. I just don't prefer that method personally. This is, I know that's crazy. I'm an OCD weirdo like that. So here's the way I do this sometimes. Is so I pick this. Now I'm going to lie to it a little bit, and I'm going to call this a 1/4 inch end mill. And so I went into this tool and I just picked a 1/4 inch end mill, one that I don't really use, just a generic 1/4 inch end mill in here. I'm telling you, I want to go 1/15 depth. That's what I've decided. This tool, if you take it 1/15 deep, it does a really nice job. Theoretically, you could go a 125. I haven't tried beyond 115. That 115 works good. I feel like 120 would probably be all right. Most of these roundovers, you want to not quite go to the full depth. Like the 1/4 inch, even IDC's 1/4 inch, you want to go down about 240 to 245 with that one. This one, it looks like 115 to 120 would probably work. I'm going 115. Step over doesn't matter on a roundover. You're just staying on one line. I'm going to go ahead and run at 18,000, and I'm only going to go 60 inches a minute. I'm plunging at half that there. So now in this case, like I was talking about on that allowance offset, remember we're lying to this thing telling it it's 1/4 inch. Now, I measured this. This is a 1/4 inch diameter, real close. It's about 245. So we're going to just consider this a full 1/4 inch diameter tool. So we want to be cutting on the center of that tool. Plus we want to offset it about 15 thousandths or so to make sure that half of that 20 thousandths or so that's on the tip is outside that line, so it's not leaving that little step on there that you got to sand out. And it'll be good and clean when you're done. So that's why. Now in this case you want to go a negative. So remember earlier I was telling you that anything you put in this offset in a positive number, and we're on a profile of outside the line. Now I picked all these out and I was able to, when you do that, it can figure out somehow, it's kind of confusing how it does that. It will pick out which ones are inside and outside. You just need to verify this when you do this kind of stuff to be sure it's working right. But so this is outside and we're going to go negative 105. Now remember, negative 125 would put us from a 1/4 inch diameter to the center line of that. If we went to, so it's going to automatically be outside the line if it thought it was an end mill trying to cut to the line. It's going to be a 125. If you do a pull offset of 125 negative, it would pull that to where the center of that would be right on the line. But we want to go negative on the other side of the line, basically. We want to pull this outside diameter 125 plus we want to hang that tip out. So 105 seems to work well. And I can show you this. Negative 105 here. You can play with this and do your own math on that and whatever you want to do. I've played around with this. Here's the distance. Now remember, this is we're just going to show this inside cut. We want the tip of that tool to be inside of the line about 15 or 20 thousandths. So let's just measure what this is here. And it is kind of hard to measure a tool path, but and I'm showing about 20 thousandths is the distance we are. And so that's exactly what we want. That's measuring the center line of your tool to there is offset 20 thousandths. Remember, this is the very tip we're cutting with on this roundover. That's perfect. That's what we want. And I've looked at all of these are the ones that we want on the outside are on the outside. The ones we want on the inside. We want these little eyes and stuff. We want them outside, the nose outside. And then this is a little hole. We want this to be inside. Everything looks good. We verified that and it looks good. The only problem with doing it this way, I'll show you here, is your simulation don't look right because it thinks it's an end mill, so it's going to show that type of cut. So let's go ahead and preview that tool path. And so that's what, like I said, it thinks it's an end mill, but as you can see, it went outside everything just like we wanted. And if we want to look at the depth, hover right there and you'll see at the bottom there, down here it shows Z115 or whatever we set that at, Z115. That's what depth we're cutting everywhere. That's exactly what we wanted. And you know, you could do how far that offset was, but this is exactly what we want. And the only thing left is to outside cut that. And I'm using the new Jenny bit on this actually now, but I'm doing pretty conservative cuts here because, like I said, I've broke this, and here's the Jenny bit that I'm edited the passes to where I'm actually taking about 5 passes on this. We're cutting 765 deep, so each pass is a 153. With the Jenny bit, you don't have to go the full 250 to get the advantage of the upcut portion. I don't have it sitting here with me, but on most of your compression end mills, this is not it. This is the golden boy roughing. But most compression on that bottom section, that's the upcut, and the rest of it's downcut, you got to go the full 1/4 inch diameter before you can take advantage of that section there where it's doing the downcut. On the Jenny bit, that's the whole purpose of it, is the way he designed it is that you can only go 1/8 of an inch and still get to that section. So I'm going 153, so I'm going to be fine. Now in this case, it doesn't matter that much, other than I like to cut the roundover first. I didn't get into that because if you take that roundover and go through these cuts first before you cut it out, well, for one thing, everything's held down solid. I've got this taped down, so I'm not worried about it moving too much, but just to keep everything tight as possible, I'll run your roundover around there first, around all of these cuts. And now when I take this, I actually bring this in 5 thousandths too on this outside cut when we cut this out to clean up, and it'll clean up any of that area that might need to be blended away from that roundover bit. And by doing your outside cut last, it gives you that chance to offset that in just a hair, 5 or 10 thousandths, and it will blend all that away, and you won't really need to do much sanding at all, and it'll be really clean. So that's kind of where we left off here, and we'll just cut that out right now. Preview that visible toolpath. It's going to do 5 passes. It's going to take it a little bit to do that, but it's not going to break anything. That's the good thing. So we'll clean that out, and there we go. But like I said, the simulation looks funny because it's just thinks that's an end mill and not a roundover. So, you know, I have other files. When you use the roundover in there, it actually shows the roundover, but I'm trying to fool that a little bit, and that's just another method you can use to kind of get around that. I did order one from IDC that I believe is going to be a sharp one, and I can go back to using that on the line, or you can draw a vector if you want inside here and do the same thing, just like Ron showed in his files. But anyway, this is just a conservative way of running this that I don't believe you're going to break anything, whether it's the long mill or the alt mill or Winfinity or any other thing that you're using, you're not really pushing it that hard and shouldn't really be having any issues. And the time on this is going to take a little while. The total time shows to be an hour and a half cut time on this. This is probably pretty reasonably close, and we could change a little bit of this to make it a little faster, but I'm not in a hurry personally. This is for fun and just to make some gifts for Christmas or things that a few people locally can buy if they want to get a gift for their loved ones or what have you, and that's just why I'm doing this. So I don't know if I'm really going to show you a whole lot on the machine. This is mainly what I wanted to show you. I've got some pictures here if you want to see some of the stuff we did on the machine. And these are, I think you can see why I taped this down with the double back tape, and it works really well. And you just want to make sure you have this really straight. You know for sure my table has real straight edges that this machine cut out for me. So all I need to do is flush this up, and when I set my zero in that corner, I just cut the lower left corner right here with the, I use the tool, the touch plate tool that comes, well, I use the zero touch plate, and it works really well. That's that woodworking tool. It's called X-Fasten double back tape. I got 1 inch and 3 inch. It really sticks really good. That's just my setup right now. I'm not done putting the Altmill together really as far as building shelves and stuff. But that's the Bamex wood. They're ready to go with the little golden boy. And that's the dust collection that comes with the Altmill, and that's kind of what it looks like after the roughing pass. And this one I had went with that grain, and it really does pretty well. But oh, that was the pumpkin. That's the fall stuff that I was cutting there. And that's when I broke I had broken that golden boy. And I was making sure I had dug out all the pieces of it and cleaned all that out really good to make sure that when I run that again it wouldn't happen. And I was running that at about, I don't remember which time this was, 150 inches a minute, I think, at 235 on depth. And so I didn't understand why that broke. It's just that wood's that tough, I think, is just all I can come up with. And there's nothing loose, everything's rigid, there's just no reason for that to happen. I'm not blaming the end mill at all. I think it's the wood is just that tough. And Ryan has sent me an extra one twice now when I've broke those, and refunded me my money on one of them. And I didn't ask him to do that. I do appreciate it, but I didn't ask for that. I don't ever ask for any special favors. I don't do any of this for any glory or anything else. I'm not monetized on anything I do. I do this to try to help others and just do it for the fun. But yeah, that's how those turned out, pretty decent. And oh, there's my little grandbaby helping my wife kind of sand on them. You know, with those little Dremel sanding deals, just kind of go around the edges of that. It doesn't take much at all to clean those up. And Ellie really likes helping Grandma. And I think I got my grandson, he was in here helping me. He wanted to push the button. Go ahead and say it. Why don't he have safety glasses on? Well, we wasn't even doing much of a cut there. I think I was doing a cleanup pass on that before I forgot why, but I think I had a little burr on there. I was just doing a cleanup pass. Probably where that little thing I was just talking about on the roundover, leaving that step. Yeah, there we are with the Christmas stuff, and there's the broken end mill. You know, it was just doing the pocketing, and it just snapped, and that's twice it's done that. And I was not running it too hard, too fast. It was 18,000 RPMs, doing a beautiful job, sounding good. The first time I thought maybe the spindle slowed down, but it didn't sound like the spindle slowed down on that at all. It just snapped, so I don't know. And there's proving the depth at 235 depth. Exactly what I'm showing. And just a few different angles of where it broke. I wasn't clamped too tight or too deep on I wasn't too far down here on the flutes. You know, I always leave a little room beyond the flutes when I clamp down on something. That's my rigid vacuum that I use. It's really good. Works pretty well. Dust collection, big one would be better. It's kind of what they looked like. They were still stuck down with the tape, as you can see, still staying tight. That was using the 1/4 inch round over, and you can see it leaves that pretty thin right there. Don't really like that, so I'm trying to use the 1/8 this time and see what it does. Anyway, that's kind of what it is. I don't want to waste your whole day watching the video, so I did order this PWN 2.2 240 volt spindle that I will be installing soon. Kind of waiting on some wiring that I don't have a good 240 plug on that side of the shop, so I'm gonna add one probably in the next week or so. I'll get out here and wire that up. I do have 240 volts in the shop. I just haven't ran a plug over there, so we'll see if I get that done this weekend or not. I doubt it. So anyway, that's all there is to this. And let me just say thanks for following along. If this helps someone, that's the only reason I do this. And it's not looking like my camera is working, but we'll see. So check you next time.